Welcome to Auto News Talk.
Glad to be here.
So, across the country, dealership service bays are quietly pulling in just record-shattering profits.
Well, absolutely massive numbers.
Right. Like, we were talking about an average of $9.2 million a year per dealership, just from fixing cars.
Which is a staggering amount of money for just the service side.
It really is. But here is the absolute wildest part of that statistic. They are making that mountain of cash while actively losing their customer base.
Yeah, that's the paradox, right?
Oh.
They are serving fewer people, yet making more money than ever.
Exactly. So whether you are in the market for a heavy-duty truck for work or, you're just praying your old commuter sedan survives another winter, buying and maintaining a vehicle is no longer just a simple transaction.
Oh, not at all. It's a high-stakes navigation of broken supply chains, staggering sticker prices, and increasingly, artificial intelligence moving in to replace human salespeople.
And that's exactly what we're getting into on this segment of Auto News Talk. We're going to guide you through that entire maze.
Yeah, because we naturally want to think of buying a car as a straightforward process. A vehicle gets assembled at the factory, shipped to your local lot, and the price on the window is essentially the cost of the metal and electronics, plus a little profit for the dealer.
Right, the traditional model.
Exactly. But if you actually trace the modern life cycle of a vehicle, from the factory floor to the showroom to the service lane, that straight line just doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's completely fractured. So we're going to track exactly how a car gets priced, how automakers are desperately trying to undercut each other, what happens the second you walk through the dealership doors, and finally, why that service bay is the hidden engine keeping the entire automotive economy afloat.
So to really understand the sheer scale of the disruption, you have to start with the sticker shock.
Oh, the sticker shock is real.
It is. And for that, we can look at the market data coming out of Kelley Blue Book. They track the entire industry, and the numbers present this fascinating contradiction.
Okay, what kind of contradiction?
Well, the average manufacturer's suggested retail price, the MSRP, is stubbornly refusing to drop below the $50,000 mark.
Wow, 50 grand on average.
Right. But at the exact same time, automakers are aggressively increasing their discounts. Incentives, the cash they put on the hood to entice buyers, those have climbed to 7.2% of the average transaction price.
Wait, hold on. I need to pause on that.
Sure.
Because if the manufacturers are offering bigger discounts, like throwing more cash on the hood to move inventory, how is the overall average price of a vehicle still hovering above $50,000? I mean, the math feels backward.
It definitely does. Until you look at the sales mix.
Oh, what people are actually choosing to buy.
Exactly. The average is being dragged upward by sheer gravity because the market is intensely tilted toward massive premium vehicles. Compact cars and subcompact SUVs are steadily losing market share.
Right, you barely see them anymore.
Yeah, consumers are flocking to the largest, most option-heavy vehicles on the lot. According to KBB, the average transaction price for a full-size pickup truck is an astonishing $65,964.
Wait, nearly $66,000 for a pickup truck?
Yep.
That is a mortgage down payment, or like a decent house in some parts of the country a few decades ago.
It really is. And this highlights a totally bifurcated affordability crisis. If you want a small, affordable commuter car, they actually do exist.
Right. You can find vehicles in the high $20,000 range if you look.
Exactly. But the demand is intensely concentrated in those highest priced segments. The heavy haulers are dominating the sales charts, and that pulls the entire industry's average transaction price skyward.
But, here's what drives me crazy about data like this. We know what people are buying, but we have absolutely no idea why.
Yeah, the motivation's completely missing.
Right. The KBB numbers don't tell us the psychology behind signing a grueling loan for a $66,000 truck in an economy where everyone is complaining about the cost of groceries.
It's a huge disconnect.
Like, are these buyers actually towing trailers for their landscaping businesses? Or is this purely a lifestyle choice? Is it an arms race for who has the biggest vehicle in the school drop-off lane? The motivation is just a complete black box.
The psychology is definitely a mystery. But the logistics of building those massive trucks are incredibly clear and, honestly, incredibly fragile.
Fragile how?
Well, those $66,000 trucks are highly vulnerable to global supply chains. A perfect example of this is a situation Ford ran into regarding aluminum tariffs.
Oh, right. I was reading the reports on this.
Yeah, it is a masterclass in how a single point of failure can cost nearly $1 billion.
It's staggering because Ford pivoted heavily to aluminum bodies for their F-Series trucks years ago, right? To save weight and improve fuel economy.
Exactly. But that makes them entirely dependent on a massive, steady flow of specialized automotive aluminum. And a major supplier for that aluminum is a company called Novelis.
Right.
They operate a massive domestic plant in New York. Well, that plant suffered a significant fire.
Oh, wow. A fire at the main plant.
Yeah. So to keep the assembly lines moving and honor their contracts with Ford, Novelis had to rapidly pivot and start sourcing that exact same grade of aluminum from overseas.
Which I imagine triggers a massive bureaucratic nightmare
Oh, totally.
because that imported overseas aluminum is subject to a 25% government tariff.
Right. Now, Ford did have a temporary government waiver in place to avoid that tariff while the New York plant was being rebuilt.
Okay, so they were protected for a bit.
For a bit, but that waiver eventually expired, and the domestic plant wasn't fully ready to take over the total volume yet. That created a gap window.
Ah, a window with no waiver.
Exactly. And during that short window, without the protection, Ford was suddenly on the hook for massive, unexpected costs just to keep building their most profitable vehicle.
The financial hit there is hard to even wrap your head around. The filing showed that this short gap added roughly $900 million in tariff obligations for Ford.
Just a brutal expense.
$900 million just because a supplier's factory caught fire and the paperwork ran out.
It is a colossal vulnerability. And the reason this matters to anyone looking to buy a vehicle is that automakers do not just quietly absorb a billion-dollar hit. It ripples through the entire system.
Right, they pass it along.
Exactly. When a supply chain fractures like that, it limits the inventory that actually makes it to your local dealer. It restricts the specific cab configurations or engine types you can choose from.
Yeah.
And inevitably, the automaker has to raise delivery and logistics fees on the window sticker to stop the financial bleeding.
So it's essentially the ultimate hidden tax. It's like ordering the most expensive steak on the menu, only to find out the restaurant is quietly adding a 25% surcharge just to get the grill to work.
That is a perfect analogy.
But the frustrating part is that the financial reports never explicitly state how much of that $900 million is being passed directly to the consumer. We know delivery fees across the industry are creeping up, but we don't know the exact dollar amount a buyer is penalized because of that specific factory fire.
It is obfuscated by design, for sure. But if you look at the macro picture, Detroit's massive trucks are facing enormous headwinds. They have sky-high sticker prices, they are bogged down by complex supply chains, and the interest rates to finance them are painful.
Which creates a massive vacuum in the market.
Exactly. Whenever an incumbent is struggling with bloated prices and supply issues, it leaves the door wide open for challengers to step in with entirely different strategies.
And that brings us to the electric vehicle push. Because while those gas-powered truck prices are hovering in the stratosphere, KBB data shows EV prices are actually going the opposite direction.
Yeah, they really are.
They've been experiencing consecutive monthly declines, and the price gap between an EV and a traditional gas or hybrid car has narrowed to roughly $5,800.
And, that narrowing isn't happening organically. It is being forced by sheer willpower from the manufacturers.
What do you mean?
Well, the mechanism driving EV prices down is just a mountain of incentives. KBB notes that EV incentives are currently sitting at an unbelievable 14.6% of the transaction price.
14.6%.
Yeah, that is double the industry average. Automakers are essentially buying down the price of their own vehicles by roughly $8,000 a pop, just to force market adoption and clear their lots.
So if I'm a buyer who refuses to pay $66,000 for an F-150, I could pivot and take advantage of $8,000 in EV cash. But pure EVs aren't the only backdoor strategy automakers are using to steal American driveways. I really want to look at a report from Automotive News detailing Kia's upcoming strategy because it is an incredibly smart, deliberate flank maneuver.
It really is. Kia is targeting the lucrative U.S. pickup market, but they aren't trying to build a massive, heavy-duty behemoth to fight Detroit head-on.
Right, no F-250 rivals here.
No. Instead, they are developing a tailored mid-size pickup, and their engineering choices reveal exactly who they are going after. This isn't just a crossover SUV with the back roof chopped off. It is going to be built on a traditional body-on-frame architecture.
I think we need to explain why that specific detail matters so much to truck buyers.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of modern, smaller trucks like the Ford Maverick or the Honda Ridgeline are unibody. The frame and the body are one piece, like a car. It rides incredibly smoothly, but it has limits. By going body on frame, where the truck body is literally bolted onto a rigid steel ladder frame, Kia is signaling that this is a serious work tool. It is designed to handle real towing, heavy payloads, and off-road abuse. They are hunting the Toyota Tacoma crowd.
Precisely. It gives them rugged credibility instantly. And the second crucial pillar of their strategy is what's under the hood. They aren't just making it an EV, they're offering hybrid variants, and they plan to build at least one of those hybrid models right here in the U.S.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a multi-path attack. They know buyers want the utility of a truck, they're exhausted by the fuel costs of a V8, but they might not be ready to rely entirely on charging infrastructure. A mid-size hybrid is the perfect middle ground.
Right. If full-size trucks are the cash cows of the industry, Kia's mid-size hybrid approach is essentially a safer, smarter backdoor into American driveways.
Absolutely. And the scale of their ambition is really aggressive. Automotive News reports that Kia's goal is to reach about 1.02 million total vehicle sales in the U.S., capturing a 6.2% overall market share in the coming years.
Wow.
And specifically for this new pickup, they are aiming to sell around 90,000 units annually in North America. They want to carve out a massive 7% of the entire midsize segment right out of the gate.
It just shows that the industry isn't a monolith. While some brands are throwing all their weight behind pure electrification, others see Detroit's bloated truck pricing as a vulnerability that can be exploited with smart, efficient, right-sized hybrids.
Yep. It's a brilliant concept on paper.
Keyword there, on paper. Because as a consumer, I can't drive a concept. The massive gap in Kia's announcement is that we don't have the hard numbers.
No, we really don't.
We don't have an official name for this truck, we don't have a starting price, and we don't know the exact towing capacity or fuel economy. Until we know if this thing gets 30 miles to the gallon or can actually tow a boat, it is just an incredibly well-orchestrated threat to the established truck brands.
That is the nature of automotive forecasting, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But let's fast forward. Let's say you've done the math. You've balked at the massive truck prices, you've debated the heavily discounted EVs, you've considered holding out for a mid-size hybrid, and you finally decide on the exact vehicle you want. Your next step is walking through the glass doors of your local dealership.
Which is universally considered one of the most exhausting consumer experiences on the planet.
Without a doubt.
But dealerships know you are exhausted. They know you are defensive about prices. So they are changing the frontline approach entirely. I read a fascinating breakdown of APR, a dealership software firm, and they are rolling out artificial intelligence kiosks directly onto the showroom floor.
Yeah, this is wild. They are piloting a system called the P-Car Genie. It is essentially a digital kiosk that fields early-stage customer interactions using a screen and voice interface.
So a literal robot greeting you.
Basically, the underlying logic here is efficiency and triage. The AI doesn't do the heavy lifting of the sale. It cannot negotiate a final price. It doesn't run your credit score. And it certainly doesn't process title and registration paperwork.
Okay, so it's basically a highly advanced triage nurse at a hospital.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right, think about it. When you go to the ER, the highly paid surgeon doesn't greet you at the door and take your temperature. A triage nurse assesses your basic needs, figures out exactly what's wrong, and preps your chart. That is what this AI kiosk is doing.
Exactly.
It answers questions about trim levels, it shows you the live inventory sitting out back, and it filters out the browsers from the serious buyers before a human ever steps in.
And the cost savings are undeniable. Dealerships operate on notoriously tight overhead margins. U.S. dealerships are testing this tech right now, but we can look at international examples to see the real impact.
What are they seeing over there?
Well, the APR reports highlight a Renault showroom in Seoul that operates with just 3 frontline salespeople using this technology. Historically, a showroom of that exact size required a staff of 6.
Wait, they literally cut their sales force in half.
In half.
Which completely reshapes the business model. If a dealer isn't paying salaries and health benefits for 3 extra people to just stand around waiting for walk-ins, they can take their remaining highly skilled staff and focus them entirely on the complex, high-value tasks.
Great.
The humans handle the emotional parts of the sale, the test drive, the trade-in appraisal, and closing the financing.
But the industry is naturally skeptical. Selling a car is fundamentally an exercise in trust building. Buying a vehicle is the second largest purchase most people make in their lives.
Yeah, it's highly emotional.
Right. A screen, no matter how advanced, cannot read your body language. It cannot empathize when you mention you need a bigger car because you have a second baby on the way.
Totally. And my biggest reservation is that the reporting around Epicar leaves a lot of technical questions completely unanswered.
Oh, for sure.
We don't know what this technology actually costs the dealership to install, and more importantly, we don't know what AI models are running under the hood. Is this a proprietary, highly tailored large language model trained exclusively on automotive sales tactics?
Or is it just a generic off-the-shelf chatbot wearing a digital Renault polo shirt?
Exactly. If it gives bad information, the dealership loses a customer instantly.
Plus, in the U.S. market, franchise laws and regional negotiation cultures are incredibly complex.
Mm,
An AI might really struggle to navigate the nuance of a buyer who wants to haggle over floor mats.
true.
But let's assume you bypass the kiosk. You sit down with a human, you endure the financing office, you buy the car, and you drive it off a lot.
And because that process was so utterly draining and the vehicle was so expensive, you vow to never do it again. You decide to drive that car into the ground.
Which is exactly what people are doing.
Which brings us full circle to the craziest statistic we mentioned at the top of the show. By refusing to buy a new car, you walk right into the most profitable sector of the automotive industry, the dealership service bay.
The Cox Fixed Operations Study breaks this down beautifully. Fixed operations refer to the parts and service departments at a dealership. And right now, driven entirely by the affordability crisis, those departments are generating absolute record revenues.
Because everyone is keeping their cars.
Exactly. Consumers are fleeing the new car market, which means the average disposal age for a vehicle has stretched to 10 years. People are holding on to their cars longer than ever.
But the cruel irony of car ownership is that keeping an old car running eventually becomes a massive financial burden.
Oh, yeah.
The Cox data maps out the cost curve perfectly. In the early years of ownership, running a car costs about 20 cents per mile in maintenance. But as those vehicles age, warranties expire, sensors fail, and major components degrade. By the time that car hits 10 years old, the maintenance cost skyrockets to $1.10 per mile.
It is an exponential increase in cost for the consumer, which translates to an exponential increase in revenue for the mechanic.
Right.
And dealerships are incredibly aggressive about capturing that revenue because it isn't just about the immediate oil change.
Right.
Service drives future sales. The Cox study highlights that customers who regularly service their vehicle at the selling dealer are 30 percentage points more likely to buy their next vehicle from that exact same lot.
So the service lane is just a multi-year sales funnel, which explains that staggering number from the study. The average dealership fixed ops revenue is hitting $9.23 million.
Yep.
But here is the paradox. They are making over $9 million, yet their actual share of total service visits has fallen to just 29%.
They are losing a massive market share to independent mechanics and mobile repair services. Consumers are taking their older cars elsewhere, and the lifetime value at risk here is immense.
How much?
Well, every time a dealership loses a dedicated service customer to the local garage down the street, it costs them over $12,000 in potential lifetime service revenue.
12 grand gone, just because someone thought the dealer charged too much for brake pads. It's the classic razor and blade model.
Exactly.
The dealership sells you the razor of the car, hoping to make money on the blades of the service. But right now, independent shops are sneaking in and stealing the blade business.
They really are.
Which is fascinating, because the Cox data completely destroys the myth of the overpriced dealership. Consumers universally believe that taking their car to the dealer is a ripoff. Yet the study shows the average service visit at a dealership actually costs $261.
Right.
Compare that to the average independent shop, which comes in higher at $275.
It is entirely an issue of perception. Independent mechanics often excel at building personal relationships. You know the mechanic's name, they walk you into the bay, and they physically show you the worn-out suspension strut.
Yeah, you trust them.
Dealerships traditionally feel sterile and opaque. You hand your keys to an advisor at a desk, and your car disappears behind a concrete wall.
So how are the smart dealerships fighting back to protect that $9 million in revenue? Technology. The Cox study shows that top-performing dealers are heavily investing in digital transparency.
Oh, the video approvals.
Yes. When a technician finds a problem, they record a video on their tablet showing exactly what is broken, and they text it directly to the customer's phone for approval.
And the financial return on that transparency is massive. When a customer actually sees a video of their leaking water pump, they are 49% more likely to approve the repair.
Almost a coin flip better odds.
Yeah. On average, sharing those photos and videos leads to roughly $230 in higher average spend per repair order. It instantly bridges the trust gap.
But there is a glaring blind spot in the Cox research. They clearly document that dealerships are bleeding market share and losing customers, but they don't explicitly track who is absorbing all those lost customers.
Like, where are they going?
Are people taking their 10-year-old sedans to massive national chain shops?
Hmm.
Are they using app-based mobile mechanics who do the work right in their driveway? We know the dealers are losing the volume war, but we don't have a map of exactly who the victors are.
It is a highly fragmented aftermarket, but when you step back and look at all of this evidence together, from the factory floor all the way to the mechanics bay, three undeniable themes emerge about where the automotive world is heading.
Okay, lay them out.
First, the crisis of affordability is dictating every single consumer behavior. We saw it in the KBB data, where premium truck prices are warping the industry average. And that directly leads to the Cox findings, where people are terrified of those prices and holding onto their cars for a decade.
That makes total sense.
Second, technology is being weaponized to strip out human overhead and maximize efficiency. Dealerships are using the APR AI kiosks to filter out buyers on the sales floor, and they're using digital video approvals in the service lane to extract more revenue without needing to build a traditional personal relationship.
And the third theme is that the established hierarchy of automakers is incredibly fragile. Detroit has dominated the truck market for decades, but the Ford aluminum tariff situation proves that their supply chains for these massive vehicles are constantly on the edge of disaster.
Right.
And that vulnerability is exactly what allows a company like Kia to confidently swoop in and target the midsize hybrid segment.
Exactly. And those themes also reveal two massive, enduring contradictions in the market. First, there is the disconnect between price perception and reality in vehicle maintenance. Consumers are actively fleeing dealerships to save money, even though the Cox data proves independent shops often have a higher average repair order.
And the second contradiction is in the pricing of the cars themselves. KBB showed us that the overall average price of a vehicle refuses to drop, largely because gas-powered trucks are so incredibly expensive.
Yep.
Yet, the vehicles that were supposed to be the expensive premium technology of the future electric vehicles are actually plummeting in price due to massive automaker incentives. The average goes up while the futuristic tech gets cheaper.
It's totally backwards. Ultimately, the entire ecosystem is shifting. The vehicle you buy is essentially a rolling supercomputer, but the actual process of buying it, building it, and keeping it on the road is caught in a brutal tension between the cutting-edge efficiency of AI software and the deeply flawed physical reality of global supply chains.
So what is the practical takeaway for you, the person just trying to navigate this mess? It is simply this. The modern dealership is no longer just a place that sells cars. It is a highly optimized, digitally enhanced retention engine.
100%.
From the AI kiosk that greets you and filters your questions, to the text message video of your brake pads 5 years later, every single interaction is engineered to keep you trapped in their ecosystem for a decade.
Very true.
That is going to do it for this segment of Auto News Talk. Next time you take your vehicle in for a repair, pay close attention to the service lane. Ask yourself, are they trying to fix your car, or are they subtly trying to sell you your next one? Thanks for joining us on Auto News Talk.